Many thanks for joining, and this is Breakfast Central. Let's take you to Rwanda, where today they will be reopening the border crossing with Uganda that has been shut for nearly 3 years now. Even as tension rise between the Central African neighbors, which has been fueled by accusations of espionage and support for each other's dissidents. Now, the border was closed in March of 2019, thereby severely disrupting trade links in the region, and various attempts, including by Angola, by the way, to restore normal relations and open the border had yielded very little.
All right, we have joining us this morning on Breakfast Central, Ugandan journalist Kimono Dorcas makes a return this morning. Thank you for being here, Kimono Dorcas. Well, walk us through the exact reason for the closure of the border in the first place back in March 2019.
Wow, thank you so much for having me. It's a good morning here in Uganda and East Africa at large. It's a new dawn. People are celebrating, of course, although some celebrations are still muted. It's not so official. Yeah, when you talk about when the border was closed sometime in 2019, it was not clear. It was not an open announcement. We didn't have a public notice that now the border is going to be closed, but residents around the border areas were prohibited to cross to either side. Those who were coming to Uganda would be admitted, would be allowed in, but those who were going to Rwanda were stopped. Time came when even those who were coming from Rwanda would be stopped from crossing to come. Not by Ugandan government, but the Rwandan government. Rwanda's president, Paul Kagame, was not comfortable having his residents, his nationals, his citizens coming to Uganda. And the reasons leading to that, we were told Rwanda was suspicious of the Ugandan government of hosting hostile elements that were planning to topple his government. And that went too deep to the extent that the two heads of state were not communicating. Even when they would meet on some events, it would be rare to see them shake hands. So the other reason was they thought, or Rwanda thought, accused Uganda for also spying on it. The same thing now, it came counter accusations. Uganda was also blaming Rwanda for sending in people to spy on its government. So it was accusations and counter accusations. But as nationals, nothing official came out to be told to us. So as journalists, we tried even one time to investigate the cause of this tension. But I think I should declare that what Rwanda told us, although it sounded cheap, but that was their statement. They said they were doing road constructions around the border, so they would not allow free traffic. Even people, they weren't allowed to cross because there were road constructions ongoing. That aside, I want to also tell you that this did not leave the communities the same. It affected a lot of things. It affected the social, economic, and political welfare around the borders. People who were trading freely were now clamped down. That is even before COVID-19 froze the economy. So it wasn't an easy time. For the last 3 years, yes, Uganda has really suffered. Rwanda has suffered, but maybe not the governments, but the individuals, people who are dealing in trade.
Right. Now, Dorcas, I mean, you just talked about trading and businesses. This is some of the economic implication from the closure of the border. Now, it was reported that Uganda lost between $200 million to $300 million worth of exports to Rwanda due to the closure. Now, some business analysts are coming out to say that both governments need to compensate traders who lost so much money because of this closure. Now, are you in support of this, or do you think that everybody should just move on right now?
Yeah, it's true when you compare the notes, when you compare statistics, statistics don't lie. In 2018, Uganda was exporting over 200 million US dollars, earning from her exports to Rwanda. But when it came to 2020, that is after the closing of the border had been effected, Uganda was only earning less than even 3 million shillings, 3 million it is 3 million US dollars. So it's true, the damage was that grave and it's still grave. But when you talk about people being compensated, knowing who Africans are, I don't want to be shy to say it might not be surface. Even when they come up with a list of those who are supposed to be compensated, let's say traders, who knows, the list will be edited to accommodate government officials instead. So I spoke to some business people around the border last evening, and they were saying all they want is to resume work. They don't expect anything from any of these governments because they might not get it. But at least they want to be permitted to trade freely, to move freely, to have their goods crossing freely. That is what they were demanding for, and that's what they were praying for. And this morning, I think you saw in some of the footage, people are celebrant, although the celebrations are a little bit muted because there has not been any government statement, not from Rwanda nor from Uganda, declaring that the borders are now open. But maybe taking you a bit to last evening's events, when Uganda was sending off their former governor of Bank of Uganda, that is the Tumusime Mutebire, we had President Paul Kagame of Rwanda sending in a special envoy to attend this burial. And that indicated that at least there is a semblance of renewed relationship. People are rekindling the love, which was so good, which was welcomed by the Ugandan communities. But when you talk about announcing that now Uganda is free to cross, or Ugandans are now allowed to go to Rwanda, Rwandans are allowed to come to Uganda, there's no such an announcement. It's still just in corridors.
All right, so with all of this, it's quite clear that the governments have not made any statements yet, and the borders are already open. Of course, statements were made also, as we can see on the screen there, that it will be opened today. But I'm sure that everyone is still expecting to hear the president or the governors talk about this border opening. But that's fine. That's fine. Let's just ask you quickly one last question, Dorcas. Now that the border has been opened, and we can see in that video that just showed on the screen, jubilations in the air and people celebrating and looking forward to have more businesses yielding profits and economic growth and no more downturn. In your capacity as a journalist covering this, would you say that this would lead to more benefits and close friendship between the presidents? I'm talking about the presidents of Uganda and, of course, that of Rwanda.
Of course, Joe, when you compare notes, as I said earlier, apart from the economic benefit, the social welfare, these communities have intermarried. It was really tense for families not to socialize freely. You have someone, a father, who was caught up in Rwanda when this border was closed. He had gone to look for something, maybe for survival. And when he's returning home one evening, he's told not to cross. You know what it means, right? So these families have suffered that bad experience. So when they say now the borders are open, obviously social life is going to boom, then economic welfare is going to boom, and maybe political relations, because now we're going to have these political leaders from both sides sharing notes freely and maybe meeting in public spaces to show that there is a good relationship between the two countries. Then also, when you talk about what it means, maybe for Uganda, it has been exporting a lot to Rwanda. So to lose such amount in just 2 years, we are comparing now 2018 and 2020, you realize it was a big gap, it was a big loss. So for it to renew trade with Rwanda, it means a lot to the business people, the business community. But also to take you back, Uganda is a transit route for very many countries around, apart from Rwanda, to Congo, South Sudan, and now for Congo, there are some goods that still go through Rwanda. So it has been not easy for any side.
Can imagine. Thank you so much, Dorcas, for bringing us up to speed with this opening. And as they celebrate, we would also celebrate with you, no doubt, because it's a good thing.
It is. It sure is.
Of course, you're welcome, but muted celebrations.
All right.
We expected the ribbon to be cut, but the ribbon wasn't cut. So that's why we're having muted celebration.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dorcas. That's a good one right there, looking at the fact that the two presidents, Paul Kagame and, of course, Yoweri Museveni, can now shake hands once more and become close friends. All right.
All right.